Well, hello there. This is Martha Crawford, and I'm here to share with you useful techniques and supplies that can really make a difference in your drawings. I have shown you in the past different drawings using different techniques to achieve likeness, and in this one I will use the good old grid technique that personally I haven't used in 20 years. There is going to be a monumental change that is going to alter my life completely, hopefully for the better, but I'm going to do everything within my power to post a good video at least every other week. Hopefully you won't think that I have abandoned you, because I haven't. I just need a little bit more time to regroup. The first thing that we're going to do is tone the paper. And I divided this photo reference into 10 values. And I'm looking for the background value overall as the main color for the background, or the main value for the background, because we're not talking about color. There's no color here. These are just grays, all right? Black and white. And when I isolate the background color, even though it's 3 different values here, I'm going to come out with the middle one and say this one. I want this one to be my overall value for the background, all right? To tint the paper. And that's about this one. Some will be doing this one, and this one will be the background color. Okay, so this is about what I'm looking for. I get my charcoal powder ready, and I sprinkle, and I'm going to spread the color around with my sachet. You can also use a cotton ball, all right? The paper we're going to use, or the one we're using right now, is Strathmore Mixed Media Series 400. And the 400 is the best because it's very thick and it allows a lot of working, so you can get multiple layers in here. And I like to use this because sometimes I like to give it a little wash of coffee over it, but I'm not going to do that with this one. It's a little too dark, so I'm going to use the regular cotton now. And I'm going once again. So I am going to check and see if I'm in the ballpark. This is the value I want. This is what I have. This is slightly darker. So I'm going to lift it. I'm going to lift a little bit more. I am going to use a paper towel. This should do it. Yeah, we are very, very close, so I'm going to leave it at that. I like this. And our paper is ready. I have printed the photo with a grid, and I have positioned the photo exactly where I want it on the paper, because I want this to continue. I don't want the face to be too crowded. I want the hair to continue that way also. So the next thing that I do is I'm probably gonna put it just a tiny bit down more over here. I like this better. Yes, I like this better. The next thing I'm gonna do is mark it. I want to make sure I have, yes, and make the lines. And I'm using a Nitron very soft charcoal stick, and the reason why I'm using this is because I want to be able to erase the lines easily. Okay, so I make a line there, and I make another line here. I mark it here, there, and same thing here. Now I'm going to do the grid lines. Make sure they're in the exact same place as in the photo. Make sure you are exact, because even a millimeter, when you're dealing with a portrait, a millimeter will make a difference, and then the face you're drawing will look weird. You take it out, and then you make the grid. Now turn the paper around so the ruler will be easier. Make sure that your charcoal is sharpened to a point. I use my sand paddle here to sharpen it. You can also use vine charcoal. Make sure it's very soft and also sharpened to a point. But do not use graphite pencil, please, because graphite has wax in it and will leave a mark. And there's nothing more frustrated that after you've done all this gorgeous, beautiful drawing, you see those ghost marks of the pencil that you haven't been able to erase. All right, so now we have a grid for our drawing, and this is ready to be drawn. I began by finding my way around the edges, and I start at the bottom because in the corner, because the shorter distances are easier to judge than the longer distances. So you should always start with the easiest part. All right, if I start at the eyes or the nose or the mouth, that would be really complicated, not only because they're right in the middle of the paper, but because the grid is pretty wide. I didn't make a very small grid, but you may find it easier if you divide the paper into more sections. I just didn't want to spend too long doing that, but by all means you can make more squares. So I find my way around the perimeter of the head all the way to the top, including the hair, and then I go to the profile, the edge of the cheek, and the end of the eyebrow. That's a pretty tricky area right there, and I know that I will need to refine it further. But for now, you don't want to get too caught up into making it absolutely perfect, because it could be paralyzing. The most important thing is that you get the head in, and basically everything is where it's supposed to be. But something to keep in mind here, very important, is that we're using a very thick stick. This is not a pencil. which means that we're not going to get the shape of the features exactly right at this stage, and we need to be okay with it. If that is something that makes you nervous or gives you pause, what you can do is use a very sharpened charcoal pencil and make sure that you do the grid marks thinner than the ones I made. The reason why I don't recommend that and I don't do it is because with a drawing and a painting, you should go from the broad to the specific, and you should leave the details for last. And if you already started too tight with the lines too thin, that may paralyze you and it may prevent you from getting deep into the shading areas as you need to go. So don't get too precious with your drawing and don't get too attached at this stage, because if you do, you will not be able to do what you need to do next when we start building the values, because you're going to see how a lot of the marks that we're making here will be destroyed. They will be gone under the shadows, and then what we're gonna do, right? If we can't find them. Well, we're starting now the eye area, and that's going to be the most difficult because, as you can see, we don't have a lot of marks around to guide us. The whole eye is going to be inside a square. So, like I said before, if it will help you to do a grid, do more lines, especially in the eyes area or right in the middle of the face, then by all means do so. But I am just going to go for it and get the eye there overall as I see it. And I have to put a little bit of shadow in there just to help me see. Because the eyes under sockets are going to be very dark. Alright, they're a lot darker actually than you think if you put the value finders next to it. And the most important thing again is that I just put them exactly where I find them, and don't get too caught up on that and just keep working on something difficult. Move around, and that's what I do. I'm moving in the hair a little bit as a means of taking a break. If you need to take a break, you don't necessarily have to leave the room or stop drawing. What you can do is just move into a different area, one that is less challenging, because that will refresh your eyes immediately. So you move into the eye area, and then you're moving into the hair area, and then you're moving into the eyebrow area, and so forth. Just keep moving, but change your location. All right, that way every time you come back to it, then you'll see it with fresh eyes. It's important to consider that I normally don't do the grid. As a matter of fact, it's probably been 2 decades or over since the last time I did the grid. And the reason is I developed the technique plumb and level, or just observation and relationships. And I've made several videos in which I show you how to use that technique. But I know that can be complicated and more difficult, and a lot of people may be interested in how to do a portrait or a drawing with a grid, because it is easier. It's definitely much easier. And the main reason why I don't recommend that you get too attached to it is because this does not work if you're working from life or with a model. You can grid your model, you can grid your pears or your bottles or whatever you have in front of you. You have to use different techniques. You have to use the relationships techniques, observational, the plumb and level technique, or plumb lines, however you want to call it. So I'm showing you the grid method because this is just another way, and it's always good to find and to get to know different ways of accomplishing things, but it's never good to get too attached to something to whether we don't want to learn about how to do it any other way. That applies to everything in life, actually. The more ways that you know how to do something, the better served you definitely gonna be. Well, this drawing is getting ready now to be put on the easel. I'm working on a table, and I'm gonna put it on an easel and start working on the values. I don't need to refine this any further. I have printed a photo reducing the values to only 5, and this is the only photo that I'm going to be looking at for the next step. I grab a piece of soft nitram charcoal and I cut it in about 1 inch square, and I'm working my way through the hair because it seems to be the darkest and the easiest object that I can find to begin with. Remember, you want to start always with the easiest things. And I'm working my way around very, very loosely because in the end, I want to give myself the chance to maybe leave the hair rough. I don't know what I'm going to do, so if I start putting too many marks on it, that will be impossible to erase later. Then I will be in trouble. So I continue around with the soft charcoal just very roughly, and then I change for the little piece of 1 inch to the baton or the whole stick that is a little bit more sharpened, and I continue building the values. And as you can see, I started with the darkest darks first, and then the dark, and I will be progressing to the middle value. Now the lightest part of this face is going to be pretty much the color of the background. So I'm considering I won't be touching the color of the background or the light value, not the highlight, but the light value. I'm going to leave it the same, the background and the face for the time being, or definitely at this step. I won't be touching that. So I'm only really working or adding 4 values. I'm adding 3 values with the charcoal, and then I will be erasing or subtracting 1 for the highest highlight that you can see on the tip of the nose. And at this stage, I don't want to be too precious, so I am really working very hard to make sure that I am only seeing the rough shapes on it. And I know this stage can be very scary because you're losing your lines, right? And you made the grid, and now what are you going to do? If you can't see the grid marks, then you can be in trouble. I understand that. If this is a little too daunting, then maybe you don't follow this loose approach, and maybe you draw your lines a little bit stronger at the beginning. There are multiple ways that you can do it, and depending on your skill level and your experience, then you can favor one over the other. I'm making many different videos showing you different techniques, so different ways to work this out and to approach a portrait. That way you can pick your favorite and work on that. All right, I'm lifting the highlight of the nose right now, and I tried with a kneaded eraser and it wasn't hard enough, it was too soft, so I'm using my eraser pencil, and that's extremely useful. I love this tool because you can get, if you press really hard, then you can get very nice lights. And now I get my square eraser, I cut it in 1 inch, and I'm erasing the light in the color, and that's going to be roughly the same light as the nose. And I'm using my value finder to check on values. I'm using my soft charcoal pencil right now, and this is a Primo. I have very little left, that's why I have a charcoal holder, and it's very useful. And I continue building the values. I'm going for the darkest darks. So basically you start with the softest or the nitram or vine charcoal at the beginning, and then you work your way up to the pencils. All right, so this is still a very soft charcoal pencil. I will leave the hardest for the very end. And this is the end of the stage of the 5 values. At this stage, what I'm doing is softening everything that I had, in particularly around the face area, to blend some of those marks because I want the flesh to be really, really soft. I don't want any harsh marks. I want to leave the marks for the hair because I want the hair to be more rough, almost to give it a little sketchy, abstract quality to it. So the Q-tip is very, very helpful for that because it very gently moves the soft charcoal around. Now notice that the charcoal that I'm moving is a nitram charcoal, and you could do the same thing if you were to use vine charcoal, very soft vine charcoal. As a matter of fact, if you have any hard charcoals that are vine or willow, throw them all away, please, because they scratch your paper. I don't even know why they sell them. They're completely useless. You only want to use soft, not even the medium. When they say the medium hardness, those are very, very hard in my opinion. So sometimes I use my finger to blend. I like to be very intuitive about it. If it's a larger area, I can, stick my little pinky to it. If it's a little smaller and I want something to be a little bit more gentle, then I will use the Q-tips. Also with the fingers, you have to be careful because if your hand is dirty or it has some, wax or oil in it, then you're gonna leave marks on the paper. And notice my cane. The cane is there at all times to make sure that I don't place my hand on the paper because remember that we tinted the paper with charcoal. So if we put our hand in it, we're gonna leave the charcoal that is there. So all you need to do is hang the cane above your easel or your board and make sure that all times while you're drawing, then you place it on top of the cane, especially for details because you have to support your hand. If you don't support your hand, it will tremble and then, suddenly the eyes will be in two different continents. You don't want to do that with a portrait. You need precision. And the cane will allow you to do just that. Now I'm using the mono eraser and you can see how easy it is to lift the lights around the eyes and on the contours of the mouth and the nose. You have a lot of precision because the eraser tip is very, very thin. I absolutely love it. And what I do sometimes is if I want a sharp point, I just cut it with a razor blade. And I continuously clean it on the sandpaper that you see on the corner of the screen. At the bottom right corner, I have a little piece of sandpaper and that's where I sand my erasers to keep them clean. There's nothing more frustrating than when you're drawing you need to erase something and you use an eraser that is dirty and then you just leave a splash of black on the paper. I've done it so many times that now I try to do my best to avoid it. The most important thing is we should really continue being creative and make drawings even if we don't really like how they turn out, even if we're not really sure whether they are the ones that we really should be doing or not. Just do it for the sake of doing it, because when we are drawing, we revert into when we were a child. When we were a child, we were not thinking on, oh, why if this doesn't turn out? What is people going to think? And maybe I'm wasting my time. Maybe I should be doing something else. No, we're just drawing for the sake of drawing. We were drawing because we enjoy it. And we had a grand time, and we were not checking social media. We were not checking our phone. We were not checking with anyone. We were in sync and in tune with what we were doing, and the enjoyment wasn't the doing those drawings. So by all means, just get your pencils out and draw, and don't get too cut out in the process. And don't compare yourself with other people. Do not think, oh, so-and-so's drawings are so beautiful, so what do I bother making mine? Because the comparison is the thief of joy. All right, and there's always going to be somebody, no matter how good we are, there's always going to be somebody far better than we are. So what is the point and where does it end? And a good drawing is a good drawing if you think it is, regardless of the opinions of others. If you do something and you make something and you're really proud of it and you really love it, it should stand on its own and it should be enough. The Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh only sold one painting in his entire lifetime, and he nailed it. If I am worth anything later, I am worth something now. For wheat is wheat, even if people think it is grass in the beginning. I continue erasing the grid, making sure there's no more lines. I am showing you here the two photos that I work with. The first one, I was using just 5 values and I was looking at only that photo at the beginning stages. And the second one, I use the 10 values and those are more sophisticated. So right now on this stage, the photograph we're going to be using is the 10 values one. And I printed the grayscale in there to show you. Now you don't have to do that with every drawing, and I don't do it on my own when I do them, but I'm doing them now to show you because it's very useful. So if you get used to do this for a handful of drawings, then instinctively you'll know how to do it. But it can serve as a reminder. So I advise that you do this to make sure that you have enough values to make the drawing interesting. There are many ways that we can draw. And we need to be making hundreds of drawings and keep practicing, just basically to come out with something that we're really, really proud of. And the reason is we have to work hard to find out how to work smart. And that means at the beginning, we don't know any hacks, we don't know any shortcuts. We learn by doing ourselves, especially if you haven't been academically trained. I haven't been academically trained in art. I have to learn on my own. So it's a very long road, but you need to enjoy the process. And like I said, you need to be able to work hard for years before you can actually work smart, because you're not going to know the best solutions until you've made nearly all of the mistakes. You need to make many, many mistakes before you can come up with, oh, I know that shortcut. I know I don't need to do this. I can do this instead. And this is the reason why many artists seem to be able to make a masterpiece in a couple of hours. Oh, how on earth did they do that? Well, because for decades they were, they've been struggling and they've made so many drawings and made so many mistakes, and now they know what not to do. And when you know exactly or pretty close what not to do, then what is left is all the right choices. So there's really not shortcut for hard work. But this is really not hard. That is the main thing. If you enjoy the process, then there's no hard work. I continue building the values, and I'm using my favorite charcoal stick. This is Primo 6V. It's a very soft and very, very creamy charcoal, and I'm using a pencil holder right now because I have very little left of it. So I want to make it last, and it's easier that way. I love the holder, by the way. So notice how if you look at the photo and you look at the drawing and really put in the values like I see it in the photo. Now, of course, it's not going to look exactly like the photo because we're talking about paper, the paper that we use versus the printed, photo paper with ink. So it's going to be different, but that is the beauty of it. You do not want to copy exactly the photograph. What will be the point? You want to give your interpretation and still get a good likeness of the subject. And the grid helps us do just that. Get the proportions right. And then later on, if you want to modify it, by the time this drawing is completed for the purpose of this video, if it were my own drawing, I will probably, for my own, I will probably take it further and take more artistic licenses and change some things, maybe not. But we can't take too long doing this, so this is the reason why I'm going to take it to a good stage that I enjoy it and I like it and considered it done. So I'm using my hard charcoal pencil right now for the eyelashes, and I found out by many drawings that I've done that this is really the best pencil to do this. If you try to use a very soft charcoal pencil like the one I used before, which I did that for years, it's very difficult to keep a point extremely sharp because it's so buttery that it would just change immediately and become a little too thick. But the hard charcoal will keep the point a little bit further, and that's great for some hairs and some little spiky things, like maybe the eyebrows, a couple of eyelashes, some of the very last touches, they should be done with the hard charcoal pencil. I would like to thank you all for watching my videos and making comments, and a special thanks to all of my subscribers. I am building another value right now with a kneaded eraser, and if you look at the photo you can see exactly that light value, how easy it is to be lifted with the eraser. Now I know the paper is bouncing with the board because I'm pressing very hard at times. When you're using the eraser you have to, so excuse that. There's nothing that I can do. The image is going to shake. And now I'm using the tortillon for the mouth to blend all those areas really well. And the final touch, on my favorite touch, which is the highlights on the eye, the tip of the nose, but just a little bit of highlight on the eyes that really make a difference, and the mouth. So I'm getting a little bit of light under the eye and working on the details now, and this is really fun. This is where I'm doing all this so I can get to this part. This is like the icing on the cake, right? You have to make the cake to put the icing on it. And I'm using the hard pencil to get a little bit of wispy hairs on the eyebrows. And they're probably not necessary, but they're so fun to do. I changed the cropping of the drawing to the larger area so you can see how I'm working on the body. I'm extending it a little bit from the photo, and I'm taking artistic license, and I really want that to be loose and sketchy and almost abstracty. I do not want to put any details in there because that will detract from the face, and I want the details to be solely on the face. So normally I will add more value to the background and make the background a little darker, but I think in this case this background tone works, which is mainly the color of the paper, and I leave some lights in some areas, and I think this is going to work. So I am right now at the very last stages of refinement, and this stage could literally take days. I fast over drawings for so many days sometimes, because your drawing is right there in your easel and you can always pick up the paper, pick up the eraser or pick up the pencil and keep working on it. It's not like an oil painting that you have to pull out all of the paints on your palette and clean your brushes. No, this is always ready for you. So you need to make a decision. All right, this is good enough. I've said everything that I wanted to say, so I'm gonna call it down. Yes, I am definitely getting to the end of this, and I always feel sad because I enjoy doing it so much that I could, keep working forever on it. This is the reason why I don't understand. I've had some students over the years that are always so eager to finish a painting, so eager to finish a drawing. And I never understood it. Why are you so eager to finish it? It's like a beautiful, wonderful book. It's so entertaining that when you're done with it, then you're like, this is it, and then you miss the characters later because you've lived that life for so many days while you were reading it. And I quit drawing and painting to the same thing. So enjoy the process and please don't wish it to end. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. It will mean the world to me. And drop me a line in your comments. Tell me where you're writing from. I always love to hear where everybody's from and what do you think about the video. What's your favorite way of drawing? I'm interested in anything you have to tell me.